Girls volleyball.
Ugh, really? Boys volleyball. Boys and girls volleyball. Boys.
Volleyball.
Balls.
Sports.
Volleyball.
Activities.
Boys and girls hoop band.
Movement.
Motion.
Anything.
Kinetic energy.
Alright, let's talk about that.
Why? What is there to talk about?
You see, it's like if I have 1 egg, we call that a kinetic energy, but if I have 12 eggs, we call that a mole.
These are just regular everyday marbles.
What marbles?
I put a link to the Mr. Anderson video if you get confused.
Okay.
Why don't we talk about music?
Okay, go.
Music.
Music. What could we talk about with
The influence of culture, of music, and how music has changed. That's not good.
I'm not interested. Oh.
Kinetic energy. Let's do that. See, was that necessary? I think it was. Kinetic energy.
What to do?
Oh, you trying to hit?
Clock.
Clocks.
Okay.
Okay, let's not talk about clocks. Okay, let's talk about clocks.
Child labor rug manufacturing. Nothing's happening. Okay.
Talk about child labor laws.
Okay. Is that something you're interested in?
I don't really know much about it.
Me.
Okay.
Okay.
We talk about homeless child labor laws.
Oh. Yeah. Talk about.
What? What could we talk about?
I don't know.
I want this.
Could talk about child rugs.
Children.
Rugs. Child rugs.
Why?
You know, rugs made of children.
Okay. So.
I love it! Do that!
Do.
Talk about the media and whether they are being truthful these days and whether it's good for people.
Going like 100 miles an hour.
Could talk about
On like Ash Street.
the
Talk about. We kind of talked about it.
education.
Nukes? Nukes and education?
Nuclear education?
We talked about like
high school. All right. Okay.
we talked about like real entertainment,
What do you mean?
like movies and TV shows.
What do you want to talk about with it?
Cartoons. I don't know. How. Why. Who.
How,
Why.
are,
Yes.
what?
Jeez, I just swallowed my cigarette. I'm gonna do that again. Do you have any interest in that?
In what?
I don't know. Talking about cartoons and entertainment and how it's different nowadays and how it's more business and not funny.
Can you so is there a problem that you're imagining that we can solve?
Well, from what? Glasses aren't long enough to do that.
Mine are this like
Oh. I should get these readjusted because these are really, really short. See?
Oh.
Doesn't even like go over my
Yeah,
ear.
what is your problem?
Yeah, what is your problem?
Yeah.
It's like
You're talking.
a weed whacker. So I can't.
Is the problem that
Well, from what I've noticed, cartoons have become.
do you just want to be like old men complaining about how good it used to be in the old days this episode?
I mean, it's kind of what I'm getting at.
Okay, go.
Back in my day.
Bacon! Alright, we're starting episode 7 of the World Solutions Tangents with Problems podcast.
Is that the real title?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't really remember.
Because I don't really remember either.
I think I've said it wrong the last few times. And then one time I just said a bunch of words.
Problems. Podcast of solutions.
Problems.
Calculus.
So,
Buttons.
national anthem.
Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
Boys.
This is what I want.
This.
For the viewer.
For nobody.
What do we call that? Actually, it is for nobody since Danny is in the Armenian military.
Since Danny died
But we did happen to get a new letter this week
from,
from Danny's parents.
and it reads, whoops.
I didn't really get it. Like, I don't know what they're getting at. No. It reads, Danny, do you have something you'd like to tell your father about school today? It's a dialogue. And then Danny says, well, I died. And then his father says, good. And then his mother says, Danny dissected a frog today during class. What for? He put a tag on the teacher's chair during class. What for? Nothing.
I said, shut up.
Steak. You want me to intervene?
No! Nobody asked you to intervene.
Bowling.
Get it, kids?
Yes, I don't really get it.
What?
The letter.
Oh,
What
yeah.
are they getting at?
I think
they're quoting something.
yeah, it could be.
Yo.
Weed whacker. So I'm giving you the points because I think
What? I didn't write anything. Yeah, but it's like a weed whacker.
and you're talking about the weed whacker.
Chalkboard. I'm not talking about anything.
See, in that case, you could get the points.
It's like, one of those situations that you have to memorize, like you're outside talking and there's a bear and your family and
yeah, that one was a tough one.
the Forbidden Forest.
Isn't it the Phantom Forest?
I don't know.
The Forbidden Forest.
It should have been the Forbidden Forest.
Why?
That might be from a Zelda game at some point. I don't know.
Did you ever play Zelda?
No.
No.
Yes. I think it was from Wind Waker.
Mm.
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 It's like a weed whacker.
It's like nothing.
It's not like a weed whacker.
This is calculus. But I can't give you the points.
What are we talking about?
Well, do you have any follow-up from last week?
What did we talk about last week?
Do you have any follow-up
God?
from next week?
No.
Do you have any follow-up from this week?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have any follow-up from last week?
No.
Do you have any follow-up from last week?
Yes.
Oh.
So do you have any follow-up from this week?
Yes.
You have follow-up from last week?
No.
What about this week?
Yes.
Next week?
Yes.
2 weeks?
Yes.
This week?
No.
Okay.
Update. We talked about the piano lesson that I was giving.
Oh yeah.
How'd that go? I gave my second one on Monday.
Oh.
So the first one went pretty well, and then the second one went pretty well.
You have them twice a week?
No. It's been 2 weeks.
Oh.
Just every Monday. Yep. So I taught him Twinkle Twinkle Little Star today.
And how do you like it?
He seems to be into it. He doesn't like he even told me outright. He's like, my mom tells me that I have to practice all the time, but I just want to play random stuff. Like random stuff as in random notes.
My mom hates me. No, he didn't say that?
Yeah, but you have to do the exercises.
I don't want to do this.
But I can't.
Dun, 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 dun.
He actually did that. He used one finger
Oh, yeah?
for each note. So we had to correct that problem.
Okay.
But I think it's going pretty well.
Okay.
I think we've got a regular Mozart on our hands.
I disagree.
Is
there any follow-up from this week?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this week we talked about cartoons, and I just wanted to, continue the conversation from this week.
Continue the conversation that was never started.
Continue the conversation we're having this week.
We're having right now.
So last week we said, as in we're currently saying, that cartoons used to be much better than they are now. And since this is the World Solutions with Tangent podcast, where we talk about the world's biggest problems, we're talking about cartoons. And movies. Do you think movies too?
Sure, we can...
Shut up!
You've hardly touched your food. Oh yeah,
My
I guess.
tire is leaking.
You've hardly touched your tires.
I'm not hungry for meatloaf.
Well, we have tires, pasta. I'm not very hungry for...
Tony Rydinger.
Suck it. So we're talking,
Well, you're talking.
right?
Right.
Obtuse. So we're talking,
Cute.
right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
Wrong.
Uh-huh.
Last week.
Absolutely.
This week.
Right now.
Follow up.
We're doing it.
Go.
Stop.
Now.
Okay.
Follow up. Last week. This week. Stop. You go. Why don't you give me an example of a cartoon that you think has gone down the
Okay.
tubes? Okay. Where do I start?
Where do I end?
Let's get this over with.
So, I don't know if you've heard of this cartoon.
No, I haven't.
It's called SpongeBob.
Oh.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. So, back in the day
Which day?
of, like, the Civil War,
Oh.
like 1999, they had some pretty good cartoons. Especially SpongeBob. And I used to watch it, not in 1999 because I wasn't born yet, but...
I was.
Okay. It's gonna be like that.
No.
Okay. So...
I wasn't born then. So it's gonna be like that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
I was.
so back in the day
There was no art
of
show.
like 2005 to like 2009-ish, that was my era of SpongeBob watching. That was when I binged constantly. And I loved the older episodes because I thought they were funny.
Do you have a favorite?
Rock Bottom,
Which one is it? Oh, that's the...
the bus one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Well, that's why you said it was your favorite, I assume.
What? No.
Do you guys sell dog food? This is Guitar Center. So
This
anyway.
is a dog food store. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and do you sell pergolas?
Do you sell Guitar Center?
Yeah.
Didn't pick up anything.
That'd be $29.99
That'd be $2.99.
plus shipping and handling. You're not shipping it. 2005, 2009, huh? They were pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So in
Can you identify what about them was good?
well, back in the day, I think the animation style was more appealing than it is today, because if you look at more recent episodes from like 2012, 2013 onward, it's all computerized and it's just a figure moving its mouth, not really moving. And when you look back in the day, it's actual drawings, so it's like not the same in every frame.
I didn't realize that they started off doing just straight drawings.
No, yeah.
I guess that makes sense because the technology wasn't really there.
But maybe it's just from nostalgia.
I think it is because I think the new artwork looks better.
They are trying, because back in the older days, they had a lot more not really freedom, but they had more creativity to make like funny SpongeBob faces. Funny SpongeBob
Let's get this over with.
faces, and they'd get, I don't know, it was just enjoyable because it wasn't forced humor. And what I see today is, especially in the more very recent SpongeBob episodes, like ones made this year, they're trying to recreate that old feel of like not every frame looking the same and having it look older to appeal to like the older audience, because I know maybe the older audience.
Are they really trying to chase an older audience?
No, I think it's just because
I think that's a bad decision. Because the older audience doesn't have any time to watch it.
the older audience has like so much time.
Because they're all like dead.
So-
Now!
Where was I?
Happy.
Older, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beep that one.
I take that back. Not the older audience, but I think they're trying too hard to be funny, whereas back in the day, it was like they were just funny naturally, and they drew things that they wanted to, and humor just kind of came out. And nowadays, they're trying to maybe hark back to that and design characters, design scenes so that it's all over-exaggerated, and that way kids will find it maybe funnier.
Do you mean funny in the animation or funny in the dialogue?
The dialogue, well, that's kind of changed too, because, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna say it. So,
you know what? I'm just dying.
growing up with SpongeBob, I've kind of learned what the characters are. Maybe that sounds way too serious for a children's cartoon show, but when I look at shows nowadays, it's like everyone acts the same. Everyone is this vibrant, eccentric character, and it's not really funny.
Yeah.
Have you seen any newer SpongeBob episodes? Because occasionally, when I'm watching TV, I'll watch one. Just for the sake of watching it.
Maybe like a year ago, I saw one, and it was more recent. Can't, I mean, maybe if you said it, then I would be able to say, oh yeah, I've seen that one, but there are like hundreds of episodes in the past few years, so. But yes, I have seen a recent one, and I didn't think it was as funny, and I agree. I think it's mostly in the dialogue. I think the animation is fine. Although
does look sleek.
It looks sleek, but at times I noticed in the recent episodes, or the newer ones, there were times when it was kind of gross. Some of the
like gross out humor.
Yeah,
kind of.
Like
yeah, but that's been accomplished.
Have they always been doing that?
No, that's not really something that SpongeBob kind of did, but it's not something that's bad if you kind of know how to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch Ren and Stimpy?
No.
Okay, well, I didn't watch it.
So we're not going to talk about it.
So, do you know of the show?
Yes.
Okay, so
I don't
my
know the
dad
premise,
used to
though.
watch it, and he was like, "Oh, this is a really funny cartoon," because he watched me watch SpongeBob.
This is just so interesting, watching somebody with a blank face looking at a TV screen.
And he would say, "Oh, if you like that, then you should watch this." And then he would put in tapes of Ren and Stimpy because he had some collection of some sort. And I thought it was funny. It was kind of dark and kind of scary at times, but there was gross out humor in that one, and they pulled it off pretty well. So I don't know if what you're getting at is gross out humor just isn't funny, or maybe they're changing their kind of humor.
Yeah. Maybe it's funnier maybe it's funny to a younger audience. But that gross out humor didn't really appeal. But animation aside, I think the dialogue has definitely changed, because if you look back at some of the earlier episodes, there are a lot of little witty lines that would, and everyone always says this, but there are a lot of witty lines that would appeal to adults that sail right over kids' heads.
Right. I think.
Granted, I haven't watched a ton of the newer episodes, so I might just be saying, "Oh yeah, it was so much better in the old days. They don't do that anymore."
I mean,
they might do that still.
I've kind of watched a decent amount of newer ones, but that's another story. Actually, no, that's this story. So, from what I can tell, it's the companies that produce these newer cartoons, and there are some newer ones out there that are decent. Not.
Can you give an example?
There's one called The Loud House.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched anything.
It's to put it briefly, it's about a kid with 11 sisters, and they all live in this one house. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to SpongeBob, what I've noticed is that companies that are producing these newer cartoons don't have the same respect for their audience as the people back in the day. And I think it's more of a business nowadays, just trying to make things that will intrigue little kids, that will get them to watch it so they can make money. Whereas back in the day, it was kind of, you didn't really focus on money. It was, they made it because they wanted to, and they thought it was funny.
This is something that happens with every single show on TV.
Yeah.
Show comes on. If I remember correctly, I don't know if Nickelodeon was like crazy behind SpongeBob when it started. I read the story of it starting at some point.
I think they were more concerned. Well, this may not even be true, but I think they kind of liked sitcoms better than they did cartoons.
Like the Amanda Show, which was a big success for them back then.
And then Drake and Josh and iCarly, and then after that, nothing really happened after that. And now they're
they still have a lot of sitcoms.
Well, they're not as good, and they don't have as nearly.
Okay, maybe we can talk about those in a second, but the purpose of television has always, at least since the 90s, at least including the 90s, has always been to make money. And when a new show like SpongeBob comes out, the Nickelodeon isn't that concerned. I mean, they're a little concerned, but they're not that concerned with making money on the show. They're just trying to see if it'll stick, and the writers have a little more freedom, and they basically just say, okay, why don't you write a good show, and we'll put it on.
Experiment.
Yeah. And then once you get a few seasons in, the network is going to start coming in and saying, okay, well, we've been polling our audience, and this is what they like, so you're going to do that, because that's going to make us a lot of money. And that starts to box the writers in. And this happens on every single TV show. I think it happened on... I don't really have any proof of this, but it seems like shows maybe they're good in season 1, and then they're good, and then they get better for a couple seasons, and then towards the end they might start to taper off a little bit. And I think you can attribute that to the writers being boxed in by the network, or they're just getting tired of the show. But I don't think that's the case with SpongeBob, because I think they've always been into it.
Always been into
writing it. Although Steven Hillenburg did leave the writing staff for a few years.
He left after the movie.
Yeah.
And then
he came back.
He did.
But he has some sort of neurodegenerative disease, so, that's...
Does he? Really?
Yeah. It's not good.
He's actually a marine biologist.
Yes.
Right.
Halfway there. I
haven't left. Just standing there yelling.
I think they've always been in the business of making money, but now that the show's a little bit older, the network is still trying to, I wanted to say beat a dead horse, trying to get as much money out of it as possible. And now that they have better analytics, they can fine-tune their algorithm for saying, do this even better.
I haven't seen... Okay, no, I'm not going to say that. I have seen decay in almost every show I've seen, like you said. But I think some writers know when to stop, and then other writers don't. Like, SpongeBob's been going on for almost 20 years, and honestly, I think the show should have ended maybe a while ago. So that way they could open it up and then have new shows. But SpongeBob, I think, specifically, has become such a hit that it's Nickelodeon's main source of income, kind of. And a lot of it is SpongeBob reruns nowadays, even though they're trying to make new episodes. And I respect a show more when they start good and then they eventually end, rather than they start good and then they keep going to try and squeeze out as much content as they can.
Yes, I think that is a really good mentality to live by. It's that if you have a good thing, it's always better to leave the audience wanting than to completely exhaust all of your ideas and finish when the audience says no more. Because on the prior scenario, people are going to associate good things with whatever you created forever. They won't have that, oh, well, it was good at the beginning, but it was bad at the end.
Yeah.
And I think that helps your next project. And it also kind of keeps people waiting. Because if you end a show, then there's the chance that you bring it back in some form or another. And people are like, I still want more of that. It's been like 10 years since you stopped making SpongeBob, but it would be cool to see you come back with another episode. Mm-hmm. Of course, you're still not going to make as much money as you would have keeping the show going. But from a writing perspective, I think it's better to end it on a high note than to end it on a low note. Of course, the networks don't really believe that because they're just all about money. So when you said SpongeBob should have ended 10 years ago, I'm like...
Not 10 years ago.
Oh.
I said years ago, but not 10 years ago.
I said 10 years. So when you said SpongeBob should have ended 10 years ago...
Right.
Actually, no. It shouldn't have been 10 years ago, because I stopped watching SpongeBob maybe when I was like... maybe it was like 6th or 8th grade. Somewhere in the middle school range, probably.
Okay.
And I mean, after I stopped watching it, well, who cares if they keep making it?
Are you a weed whacker?
A weed whacker?
I said weed.
Nintendo Wii Whacker.
Did I say Wii Whacker?
I didn't hear a D.
Weed Whacker.
Chicos, weed. Now.
Freya.
I need this. It's in my car. Here are my keys. Go get it from the glove box. Don't.
Opens the glove box.
Show it
glove
to anybody.
box. I can't enunciate for my life. Glug
boss. I mean,
Glug.
you pronounced enunciate pretty
drink.
well. What is it?
Glug.
What is it?
It's a Christmas alcohol.
What is
that
it?
You drink. Glug.
What is it?
I don't know. I've never had it.
But you just said it was a Christmas alcoholic drink. So
I don't know what kind of alcohol it is.
Oh.
It's kind of... You put, like, sort of seeds in it at the bottom.
Sunflower seeds.
No, not sunflower seeds. And then it's kind of like this dark purpley color.
OxyClean.
OxyClean and sunflower seeds.
And vodka. There you go. A glug.
Glug. It sounds stupid, yes, but...
Well, yeah, because it's OxyClean and sunflower seeds.
And vodka. Chicos.
Hi, Billy Mays here for OxyClean.
For glug.
To order, call 877-129-6604.
Okay, so we're talking about... What?
I don't know.
You don't know. Yes, you do know.
10 years ago, oh yeah, and then I said I think it would have been fine if it ended, because, it ended, and I was no longer watching it, so... Any more to say on SpongeBob?
No.
No.
Do you want to move on to movies?
Well, let's move on to those other Nickelodeon sitcoms.
Okay, yes.
Let's talk about how good Drake and Josh and iCarly were. And
They're okay.
I also liked...
No, I like
I liked Zoe 101 and Victorious and Big Time Rush.
I only
liked
saw...
all- and
I
Ned's
saw very
Declassified.
few episodes of Zoe 101.
Mhm.
I saw some episodes of Victorious. What? What's the episode of Zoe 101 when there's this, like, green ghost?
It's the one where it's the green ghost.
Oh! I got it, yeah. It's
think
the
it-
green ghost!
I think you're thinking of one of those Halloween episodes where there's a haunted house,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know, I just remember that one.
Good.
Was that helpful? No. Goodbye.
I left a link to the Mr. Anderson video. Yeah, so, hi, welcome back to AP Chemistry, whatever. So, there's a green ghost in Zoe 101. I think it's like a Halloween episode. So these are just regular everyday marbles, and I hope that was helpful.
Da, 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 Stupid sticker. Stupid genius.
Stupid life, stupid companies, jobs, sticker.
Family company.
Yeah, right, what does that even mean?
So we're talking about sitcoms.
Yeah.
Drake and Josh was very good. I liked it a lot.
Megan.
Megan. You boobs.
Megan.
Enchilada. I liked iCarly a lot too.
Yeah, me too. That was really good.
So what did you think was so good about them?
Characters.
Oh, wow. Is that all?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, to be honest, the situations in the episodes were usually not that unusual, except for, like, the ones where I was thinking really about iCarly. I mean, if you think about Drake and Josh, there's, like, the ones where they like, go to the sushi factory and get, like, caught up in some heist with the criminals and...
There's one where... Well, this isn't really unusual, but I just remember it when Josh is on the weather. He starts twitching, starts sweating everywhere.
He's a twitchy weather boy. But in iCarly, I mean, you'd have episodes like the first one was, Freddie goes to film the talent show, or like they do a 24-hour webcast. I mean, yeah, I guess that's interesting, but it's not groundbreaking. But what made it so good was the dynamic between the characters. And I think a standout character in that was Spencer. He was really funny. But there was also some good writing in that. The characters would be talking, and then they'd say something that you wouldn't expect, something witty, and that would be funny. It wasn't like constant laugh out loud humor, the show, but it doesn't have to be.
But a lot of good shows...
Yeah, you can say what you want to about iCarly, but then I've got some bad things to say about iCarly.
Okay. Well, just to follow up on your point, a lot of shows that I like are not laugh out loud. Well, shows that I like that are comedies are not laugh out loud funny all the time. Like, I just started watching The Office, and I don't laugh every second of it, but I still like the show.
Yeah.
Because I like the connections, and I like how characters are portrayed and the things they do, the way they act. it's humorous, and I like to watch them.
Yeah, The Office had. I usually have a singular favorite character in an episode. Like in iCarly, or in a show. In iCarly, it was Spencer.
Drake and Josh, it was
Crazy Steve. so
Spencer again.
Essentially that actor. And okay, I want to talk about The Big Bang Theory for a second because Sheldon was obviously my favorite character in that.
Sheldon is everyone's favorite character.
Have you seen that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's made so much money off
I
of
know.
that.
And he's gotten like advertising deals because of it. So I used to like The Big Bang Theory a lot, and I watched most of the episodes. And then when it got to like season 5, I was like, yeah, okay, this is not as funny as it used to be. And it, in my opinion, it really only went downhill from there. And if you're calling it TV's #1 comedy, but it's not really that funny, then what are you going for? And the reason is that I thought it was funny because Sheldon, main character, was so socially inept and like geeky and was just learning his way through the world, and those were funny situations. But then he started dating somebody, and as the show progressed,
So he started to break character.
I wouldn't really call it break character. I would call it a progression of a character.
Okay.
And I get why they did it, because if they kept him the same for like 7 seasons, then it might get a little old. But at the same time, really the only draw for me to that show was that the funny situations that Sheldon would get himself into. And then as he started to get more socially adept, eventually in like the last season where he gets married to, spoilers, he gets married to his girlfriend.
I don't really watch the show, so I don't really care. I've seen episodes of
Talking to
it.
the viewers.
Oh, sorry.
Danny's parents.
Danny.
Danny Phantom. At the end,
That was a good show.
At the end,
I like that show a lot.
it's not really that funny because you lose the Sheldon aspect of it, and the other character stories I really, couldn't really care
Is it still going on?
much about. Yeah, I
They're still
think
making
this
new
is the
episodes?
last season
Yeah.
that we're in.
So do you think it should have ended a while ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it should have. Although, that's my opinion. There are other people who might be watching the show and they might have cared about the characters a little more, and they might have wanted that nice resolution at the end. But for me, it was really about how funny Sheldon was. Now, there's also... Actually, I was going to say something about The Office, but it would be about the end of the show, so I don't want to say that because you're still watching it. But, so we got off that. We were talking about...
Sitcoms.
Was it Drake and Josh?
Drake and Josh, iCarly.
We were talking about something specific with them.
Characters.
Well, I had things that I didn't like about iCarly, so did you have anything more to say, or I'll get to that?
No, you can go.
Okay, so here's the thing.
It's trash. All of it.
As is the theme of this podcast, iCarly, it was good first season. It was great second season to the 5th season. And then, by that time, it was like, 2012? 2013?
It didn't go on for very long.
So that was like the end. I think it ended in 2013. Maybe, actually, there might have only been like 5 or 6 seasons.
Do you want me to look it up just to be sure?
No, I don't care.
Okay, fine.
So
I'm gonna look it up anyway.
in the last couple years of the show, especially the last season,
Yeah.
I didn't really care for it, but I still watched it because I had been watching it for 6 or 7 years, and I was kind of invested in the characters, but it just wasn't that funny to me
2012.
because it had moved on to a different type of humor. Not drastically, but just subtly. Like, they did a lot of mainstream, like, social media,
Yeah.
if you even know what I mean by that, but like social media humor.
Okay.
And I might need to like think for a couple
There was kind of-
seconds on what that even means, because
I
I noticed this in the recent sitcoms too.
There was a recent sitcom that Nickelodeon created called Sam and Cat, where they combined iCarly and Victorious. Kind of one of their better characters from each show, because you watched Victorious, right?
Yep.
Cat was one of the funnier ones, I thought. It's just in my opinion. And Sam was one of the funnier ones on iCarly.
Mm.
And so they just took those two and made a show about it. And I didn't think it was as good.
No, it wasn't. Because, and here's why. They didn't have anyone to bounce off of. They had two funny characters, and they didn't have anyone to ground them. So
They tried to introduce like other characters, but it
I don't
wasn't
think the dynamic really works between
the same. Yeah.
them. Like in every duo, you have the
Odd
funny
one out.
one, the funny one, and the normal one.
Mhm.
Like in Drake and Josh. Josh was the responsible one, and Drake was the crazy one.
Yeah.
In iCarly, you had like Freddie and Carly were kind of grounding Sam. So Patrick is the weird one, and SpongeBob's also weird, but Patrick's like really weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Sam and Cat didn't really work, but there's also, like, I really have. It's just this feeling in my mind when I watch these more recent shows, and even towards the end of iCarly. Keep in mind, I was like of the age to be watching iCarly when it ended,
Yeah.
but it was just that kind of humor, and it's kind of moved on. And I was gonna say you might be able to see this in the more recent SpongeBob episodes, but the humor has changed,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to articulate how. But
I think they're trying to appeal to like younger audiences, kind of. Maybe it's just me maturing and then kind of watching these shows and thinking, oh wow, I'm too old for this. I don't need to watch this. But to me, it seems like dumbing down the humor.
yeah, I really that's a good way to put it. Dumbing down the humor, and I also think
Humor that isn't as clever.
it's not clever. And I'm gonna take a stab at this and say that
I'm gonna stab myself.
because I'm stabbing all of you.
Because I put 2 knives underneath my desk. See?
For my protection.
For my protection.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson.
That was the first interruption in a while.
Hi, it's Mr.
Hi!
Anderson. Hi, it's Billy Mays, and welcome back to Andy's First Element.
Hi, Mr. Anderson here with moles.
Now you see, the mole has the stain-fighting power of 12 eggs, and these are just regular everyday marbles. So call to get yours today, and I hope that was helpful.
Jesus, I'm not breathing.
Sounded like you were just startled by something.
I've never made that noise.
I'm going to stab you and say that they are trying to appeal to people with shorter attention spans. Because I don't think it's just a curmudgeon-y old person get off my lawn thing to say that attention spans are shorter today than they used to be. And I think that's because of access to social media and, getting immediately what you want when you want it on the internet.
Mm.
So if they're trying to dumb down the humor and make it less Clemmer and make it less Clemson and appear to
And go to Clemson.
and appeal to shorter attention spans, then you get humor that just seems really immature.
Humor that seems lazy.
Even to myself, who was of the age to be watching iCarly at the end of iCarly. Because I was used to old SpongeBob and old iCarly where they were clever and they were, less trying to appeal to that second-to-second attention span.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end of the show, I could see that the humor was shifting and it was being less clever and more dumbed down, and I just didn't find it funny.
Mm. So do you think that every sitcom from this point on is going to fall victim to that?
I think a lot of them will. Especially the Nickelodeon ones. If you want to talk about sitcoms from, TBS, I didn't find that with The Big Bang Theory. I didn't find the humor to become, less clever.
Mm.
I just found
You
that...
just grew tired of it?
I just found that the thing that I found funny about that episode was Sheldon, and that's disappeared over the years. But they do make jokes with the other characters,
Yeah.
and that stayed consistent, which is something that is really... They should be proud of that
Yeah.
they maintained that. So I think it's really something that happens with kids' shows. My favorite show ever is probably Seinfeld. That was a 90s sitcom. In fact, the first season might have even come out in 1989. And
I've only seen very few episodes
I've
of
seen all of them.
Well,
Multiple
for bragging,
So, when you talk about humor, it's really difficult to explain why something is funny, and it's kind of even difficult to explain, what exactly, or categorize the humor in a show. But I think the Seinfeld moments were basically a combination of outlandish situations combined with characters that can over-exaggerate things. Like, not over-exaggerate, not over-exaggerate in the disgusting sense, but
yeah.
maybe even just react normally, but sometimes they go off the loose. And actually Seinfeld did this for me, because towards the end of the show they say that the characters all care only about themselves and will do everything to be selfish and not go out of their way to help other people. So that's kind of what made it funny. I didn't really get that attached to the characters. If you watch something like Lost, for example, which I watched, relationships develop in that episode, and you're rooting for certain people and you want these things to continue. In Seinfeld, I bet Jerry probably went through like 30 to 70 different girlfriends over the entire show.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. I think they had more than 100 episodes. And I didn't care. Like,
Yeah.
George, okay, this is going to be a massive spoiler.
That.
George,
Well, then don't say it if you don't want to say
no,
it.
I'm just phrasing it correctly. George proposed to this woman, and then he realized he didn't want to be in the marriage,
just
but he
wanna
didn't
guess
have the
what the
guts
woman
to
is.
tell her, Susie, or
Yeah.
Susan. And then she died right before the wedding, and I didn't care.
It wasn't a tearjerker at all?
It was kind of funny. And that's because the characters didn't care.
Okay.
George's reaction was, so she's dead. Okay. He went over to his friends and he told them, and they were like, well, you want to get some ice cream?
So it wasn't dark.
No,
At
it
all.
wasn't.
Okay.
No. But it
So
just...
you
Yeah.
think, not really lighter, but maybe lighter humor is more successful?
Where's that lady?
Where's my
Lady.
I just need to get to the library.
I just need my library card.
She goes, I need your library cards from kindergarten.
I don't know. That wasn't really what I was trying to get at, light humor versus dark humor. But I think I would tend to prefer light humor, since it's not dark.
Blah.
Blah! Blah!
Eat less cake.
Blah!
So do you want to move on to movies now?
Oh, yeah. Movies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, movies.
That was the transition. You have to have music transition between the segments.
I don't think movies have... I don't know. I think movies have stayed kind of the same throughout time. In regards to, like, quality and humor. Because there's always going to be bad movies. There's always cash grab movies that people make just to make $5 million extra in the box office and say they made a profit off of it. And then they make a sequel and then they make $6 million. There are movies like that all the time. But I think that good movies will always be around. I don't think that there's going to be this time where no one can make a movie, everything in cinema is dead. What's the point anymore?
I want you to think of a list of your favorite movies, just like, a few of them.
Incredibles, Jaws, My Neighbor Totoro, Rango, I was gonna say Star Wars, but I don't know. That's kind of
Well, what I'm trying to get at
cliche.
here is that I'm trying to see if most of your favorite movies are from a recent time period, say 2005 onward, or 2005 and before.
Well, I like I do like a lot of Steven Spielberg movies. He's one of my favorite directors. I think that's, and a lot of people have Steven Spielberg as their favorite director, but I think he's made a lot of good movies, and I really like Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite movies. I downloaded it on my iPod Nano when I first got it.
The screen's like that big.
It was that big, and I watched it.
It's 10 pixels by 10 pixels.
I watched it. I just held it right there.
There's
and
like
I'm
one gray square for the shark.
changes to blue, then to red, then to gray, then to blue.
Okay, so he went under the water, and somebody started bleeding, and then he's back above the water. This is great!
Avatar used to be one of my favorite movies, but now that I kind of rewatched it, like I used to just like it a lot because I saw big blue monsters. Because it came out in like 2009, so I saw it when I was like 9 or 10, and I was like, "Wow, this is so cool!" And I just kind of
That's a good
focused on
impression.
special effects. And now that I rewatched it, I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good movie. It's probably not one of my favorites, but it's okay."
So, pre
Oh, Godzilla. I don't think that. She goes, "This classroom is so hard to push."
Chicos, this classroom tastes awful.
Why did you get it? Takes a chunk out of the wall.
What can be better than Spanish class?
I think movies nowadays are still good, and I don't think that I already said this, but I don't think that there's going to be a time where movies won't be good anymore. But I think you're right how I kind of like Steven Spielberg, and Jaws was the first movie that I really, really liked of him, and then I saw other movies directed by him, and then I liked those movies because I like Jaws, and they're directed by the same person. So maybe it's because this one guy made all these movies, so I'm thinking, oh, movies back then were really, really great.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of recent movies, like Pixar movies, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, movies today are really, really good. So movies will be good forever.
Yeah.
But that's not entirely rational, because that's, first of all, two way different. One's a studio, one's a guy.
Mm-hmm.
One's animated, one's not.
One's a studio, one's a guy.
One's a animated, one's a studio.
One's a guy, one's a charger. Tastes awful.
One's a classroom, one's a movie. I shouldn't hit that one.
Yeah, it's a big mistake.
That's a big mistake.
Chicos, that's
She goes, "That's a really small mistake."
But
I can't give you the points!
I'm gonna harbor on it for the next 5 hours.
Ding!
If I think of my favorite movies,
What are your favorite
there
movies?
have only been a couple movies that I've ever seen. I don't know if you've experienced
How-
this, but
Only a couple of movies you've ever seen. That can't be true.
me finish the surgery.
Ow!
Slams her knee into the desk. She goes, that hurt!
What the hell, Freya?
I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but once in a while, I'll see a movie, and I'll be really interested watching it, and then we'll just get to the end of it, and this is just, you can't really give an explanation, it's just a feeling, but you get to the end of it and you say, that was perfect. That was
A
an
perfect
absolute
movie.
masterpiece. It had me grabbed the whole time, and you just sort of have that feeling like, hold on, I need to think about that for like a couple minutes.
There have been movies where I had to think about it, but I I've never had an experience like that.
I've had that twice. One was for the movie The Truman Show,
Oh, I watched that movie.
which I really liked. And another one was for the movie Panic Room, which was
Panic Room.
with Jodie
Oh,
Foster.
I know that one.
And it was a really suspenseful movie, and it had me grabbed the whole time.
There's another movie a lot like that one called Don't Breathe. Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay. Because the premise of Don't Breathe is that there are 3, like, criminal kids, like young adults, kind of, who steal from people to get money. And they see this easy target of a blind man who lives in, like, this old home, and there's, like, a rumor going around saying that he has a fortune in there. So they, at night, go into the room, and they try and steal stuff, and then they realize that the man is actually very dangerous, and it's a story about him walking around with a gun, and he can't see anybody, and they're just all standing there, and it's very on edge, very intense.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
No, I really want to see it, though.
Is it recent?
It came out in, like, 2016.
Came out in, like, 16.
Came out, like, 16 minutes ago.
Came out, like, 16 million years ago. It's just a DVD
Dinosaurs.
laying on the ground. What is this?
But it was a good movie, and a lot of critics liked it. But it had a lot of similarities to Panic Room, at least from reviews that I've seen, with similar looking characters, similar plot. I don't know the exact plot of Panic Room.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling me?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Premise is that this woman, she's divorced and she's living with her daughter, and they buy this really nice house in New York City. And a lot of wealthy families will buy houses, and these houses will have panic rooms. So they're essentially safe rooms where you run into them and you can close the door behind you, and they've got TVs in there with cameras, and you can look all over the house, and they've got, like, you know, food and stuff that you can survive in there. So if somebody does break in, you can run in and, you know, watch them on the TV and call for help. So that's exactly what happens. These guys try and break in to their house, and they're looking for, don't exactly know what it was. It wasn't cash, but it was like something worth a lot of cash, and it was actually hidden in the panic room. So the premise is that the two of them run into the panic room, and then the guys are trying to get what's in the panic room, and the two family members don't, you know, want to get out because they'll kill them.
Why not?
So the movie's basically just, you know, the burglars try something, the family stops them, and then it's this and that, and it's back and forth, and they just keep trying things over and over again, and they constantly get shut down, and it's like, when's it gonna finally gonna happen? And then it does, and it's a great ending. So I really like that movie and The Truman Show, and that's only 2 movies, you know.
I saw The Truman Show.
I like the Incredibles too, not the second one, although I probably will, but like TOO. And then I really like Airplane.
I liked Airplane. Did you see the Naked Gun series?
And I really like some of the Naked Gun movies too. But that's mostly just because I can quote them with my dad.
No. So what are we talking about? Movies that...
So we're essentially just talking about movies that we like. I agree that I don't really think that movies have gone downhill, but to be honest, I don't have a ton of recent movies that I can remember that I absolutely loved. You know, most of the movies that I've seen in the theater recently have been the Star Wars movies because they've been coming out, and I was never really that into Star Wars anyway. But you know, they're good, but
I
amazing.
Frequently look up new movies, I have to say. Like, the minute I open my laptop, one of the first things that I'll do is I'll hit R and enter, because I know Rotten Tomatoes will be the first thing that comes up. And then I hit it, and then it brings up the page, and then I can look at movie reviews, and I can look at what's making money, what's not, how good movies are doing.
Yeah.
That's just a habit of mine.
So is that it for movies?
Yeah.
was good.
That was good.
Cartoons and movies aside, I do think that we're in a bit of a golden age of television, though.
Right now.
Yeah. Because you have amazing shows, and we've been leading up to this for the past few years, but you have amazing shows, or we've had them, like, Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead, which used to be very good. I don't think it's not that great anymore, but I think a lot of producers and a lot of writers are choosing TV instead of movie because it's longer format, you have more time to tell a story, and it can be a lot more fleshed out.
Yeah.
And that might account for why I haven't fallen in love with a lot of movies recently, because I've been much more interested in TV shows.
I've also noticed that for the past couple years that stars are moving towards like independent film studios like A24 and like Sundance and those sort of, they're like these kind of artsy sort of productions, and they're not solely based on what's going to make money. They're transitioning to artful content rather than what's going to make money.
Yeah.
And a lot of times artful movies that deserve more acclaim don't make a lot of money.
I think I really like that movement, because that gets back to what the writers want and not what the network wants, or not what the production house wants.
Does that mean that the network is going to infiltrate
movies?
Like those independent film productions?
I think eventually.
Then there's going to be new
they'll make
productions.
them an offer that they can't resist, but we've already been in the era of production houses for movies, and now we're just moving independent. And
so
then
it's going to
we
be
might
like
shift back,
a wave.
And then we
it's
might
just
shift
going to go
back.
up and down?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll go like that. But I'm not that concerned about movies. What we should be concerned about is cartoons, and I just thought of this. But I think we can accurately label this problem with cartoons as the Family Feud effect. Because if you think about Family Feud today versus Family Feud 10, 20 years ago.
Like Richard Dawson?
Like Richard Dawson, or even Sean O'Hurley. I think that's his name.
I don't know the guy before him. I just know Richard Dawson.
No. Sean O'Hurley came... Or, no, John O'Hurley came after Richard Dawson for a few years. But he's the guy who voiced King Neptune.
Really? Okay, this is unrelated. Why... I like the SpongeBob movie a lot, and maybe that's nostalgia, just protecting my sacred memory of it. But I do have one flaw. Why did they change King Neptune? Because it's not the same guy.
For the movie?
Yes. Do you remember in seasons 1, 2, and 3? Specifically, do you remember when SpongeBob pulls the spatula out of the grease trap?
Yeah.
Right. And then King Neptune comes down? He
It's
doesn't
not
look at all the same as in the movie.
Is that the same voice?
No, it's not the same voice.
He
has like
I thought it's
a
always been the
green
same guy.
bulk body, and he has like long red hair.
What does he look like in the SpongeBob movie?
He has like a beard, and he just wears like this big crown's robe.
We are going to have to look this up.
All right.
King Neptune.
Yeah, see?
Oh, yeah. You're right.
You're wrong.
This is interesting.
This is not interesting.
Yeah, that's how he used to look like. TV series, movie.
It looks
Real
entirely
life.
different. Oh my god.
Okay, let's see. Portrayer, John O'Hurley, for all of these episodes, and then a different guy for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and then a different guy for SpongeBob. Okay, well, I think John O'Hurley has the best voice of all of them. He's got a great voice. But he hosted Family Feud at one point.
Yeah.
And if you look at the difference in Family Feud then versus now, it's like exactly the same thing that we've observed in cartoons. They're appealing to more crude humor, which is easier and gets more views.
Easier to write, you're saying?
Well, the thing is, they don't really write it, but
The thing is that they don't have a script.
it's easier in the sense that it's easier to get the contestants to say something crude than to get them to, name something that your husband wouldn't want to find lying around in your dresser. And somebody says, a bicycle! Like, nobody says that. But then somebody might say, like, what's something, like a condom that he didn't supply. That's, like, funny.
Yeah.
But, and they can set that up. But, again, it's this crude humor, and, like, it gets views. But I liked it the way that it used to be, because I thought the show was a lot more palatable. Granted, I think Steve Harvey does great, and I think there are a lot of good moments on that show. But once they start to dip into that humor, it's like, ugh, give me a break. And I'm not saying SpongeBob and cartoons these days do crude humor, but I think they're taking easy shots at it. It's not as clever, and it's not as genuine.
And they also come up with very weird stories.
That
like there was a recent one, a very, very recent one, called Ink Lemonade, where Patrick sells lemonade at a lemonade stand.
Family Feud.
No.
There was one called Ink Lemonade.
And
Fast Money.
This, I don't remember all of it, but it was Patrick selling lemonade at a lemonade stand, and then somehow Squidward's ink gets into the lemonade, and then SpongeBob drinks it, and he's like, wow, that tastes really good. And then essentially Patrick tortures Squidward to get as much ink as possible, so that way he can make more lemonade and get more money.
What are they trying to say?
I don't know. It was really weird.
Ugh, that's a dark message.
Yeah.
So yeah, since this is the World Solutions with Tangent podcast, we need to come up with a solution to this. So here's the problem. Cartoons these days are suffering from the Family Feud effect. They're going for the easy shots that...
the FFE.
What?
FFE, Family Feud effect. The fee.
Really, did I just look like that for the past hour?
Yes! Did you really think they were on the right way?
No, but I didn't think it would look so dumb.
You look like an insect.
The Family Feud effect. So how do we solve it?
We give more control to the writers instead of the big business in charge. So that way because you can't not make money, otherwise the show's going to fail. So I think maybe give a little more control to the writers and allow them to take the wheel sometimes, so that way you can have creative content that makes money.
How do we do that?
Negotiation. You don't like negotiation, though.
No, I don't like compromise. But I think negotiation is good. But I am just thinking, if the writers go and they try and negotiate with the networks,
because if
it's a actually that might be a good point, because that might be a good point. It's dumb.
It's really not, but I'm giving the points
now.
I'm taking the points away from you.
The writers are the ones that have the ideas, so they should really have all the leverage in the.
Because if they don't,
then
no.
No. But in the negotiations, the networks are the ones who have the money.
Yeah.
The money is driving the writers, and the writers are gonna try and sell their story to the one that gives them the most money. Except that they probably want freedom on their writing. I don't know that much about writers, but maybe the industry has shifted where writers' priority is no longer creating something great, but now making money. And maybe there are circumstances that have led them to prioritize that, but maybe that's what's driving this. And I was going to say that one way to solve this problem would be to have the viewers vote with their wallets. Don't watch the show if it's not good, if the network's putting too much pressure on them. But here's the problem.
So why are Why are they making money? Who is watching?
Because the humor that they do these days sells.
Appeals to
it sells.
the
The
littlest
Family Feud
kids?
effect.
Oh.
Crude humor sells. It gets views on YouTube. It gets more people watching it on TV because they want to wait for that moment where some contestant is going to say something really dumb and Steve Harvey's going to give that face look to the audience like, oh.
And
Like
then he'll
he
say
does
something.
every single episode. Now, Barbara, you know that's your husband's condom in the dresser, right?
Was that your impression of him?
No.
Yes.
I did not speak.
I speak Spanish! Moving on. I speak.
I know, Chris.
So if they don't reach some sort of agreement where everyone's happy, then it's just going to be a never-ending chase where writers will end the show, new writers will come in, they'll make something great, and then network will see it and they'll put money into it, try and change it so that way they get the best outcome possible. The writers won't be pleased because they're not they don't have the creativity, they don't have the chances to do what they do, and then they're going to leave and it's going to happen all over again. So shows will only be good for 3 seasons.
I wonder if the writers of cartoons find what they write funny, or are they just trying to appeal to young kids and they know how to do it?
Do you think Tom Kenny has a blast?
He doesn't write, does he?
No, but do you think Tom Kenny has a blast when he's performing SpongeBob? When he's being SpongeBob?
I think he loves it. But I'm saying, when they're sitting at the writing table, are they laughing at the jokes that they're writing? Or do they just know what kids like and they write it in? Because I think if I were in the writing room, I wouldn't be finding it funny. But then again, I'm creating a show for kids, so I'm going to write things that kids like. It's not an adult show.
I don't think that's kind of a bad excuse, I think. Saying, well, let's go back to movies for a second. A lot of people will say, oh, you're being too hard on it. It's a kid's movie. You need to take it down a notch, give it a break. But I don't think that's an excuse for people to not try as hard or people to write something terrible just by saying it appeals to a younger audience.
Well, I don't think kids today think it's terrible. But you might think it's terrible, but they're just writing for a different demographic.
Yeah, but the parents have to go with the kids.
Yeah, I liked what you were saying there. When it's like, just because it's a kid's movie doesn't mean it has to be dumb slapstick humor.
Doesn't mean it needs to be perfect. I'm not looking... I mean, kids probably won't want to watch something like Casablanca, where it's like...
Schindler's List.
Moving on.
Dishes.
Moving on!
Moving on!
When I watched The Incredibles 3 nights ago, I said that.
I said that.
I said the juice.
Are you watching it with anyone?
No. Well, actually, my brother was there, but he kept like walking in and out of the room.
I saw his saxophone. He was sitting...
You didn't see him with the saxophone?
No, his saxophone was up against the wall next to the bathroom in the main hallway.
Well, that's
So
an
we can
issue.
only
How do you know it
assume.
was his?
It said
Oh,
on the side of it.
like disgustingly. It's like and then it's like sideways on a green tape.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you don't like it.
No, it doesn't look good.
I know. But
Ah.
that seems to be Mr. system these days. Gotta beep that one out. But
That seems to be
It seems to be Mr. and Mr. and Miss and Mr. Conan O'Brien and Mr. Jerry and
Ben. Brendan. Bean.
Forrest, I swear to God, and Mr. Casablanca and the Schindler's List and Casablanca and
Now.
Sullivan and
So what were you getting at? You...
go you.
Glug.
So just take some OxyClean and some sunflower seeds. Could that be it? Could that be the time?
Wait. Hold on, not yet. Okay.
Wait! Hold on! Keep going!
Kids movies.
How do we solve...
No, you didn't finish your thought.
What?
You were saying something.
I was talking about kids movies and how you shouldn't just dumb it down for them because they're kids. I think kids have the capacity to understand complex humor. It's just they're sometimes not given the chance to. I found Seinfeld funny when I was 7. Maybe not 7, but like 9.
Okay. Maybe not 7, but like 6.
It's like, you shouldn't really let a 7-year-old watch Seinfeld because it's all about like dating.
Ooh, dating.
Yeah. Droopy, Saddy, Nappy, Pluty.
Yes, Yuri. Mr. Uranus.
Droopy. We just came up with a solution to the Uranus problem.
What is it?
It's a
Rename it.
It's a terrible name.
What do you want to rename it to?
Yuri.
Yuri?
Yeah.
How would you spell that? Like Brendan Urie? Brandon Urie?
Who?
I don't know. He's a singer.
It's
like you-
Droopy.
Brandon.
Allison.
Allison.
Allison, Brandon.
Allison, Brandon, Allison.
Allison, Brandon, Allison, Brandon, Allison, No pause between people. I'm done talking about kids' movies.
Really?
We
We would spell it U-R-I-E.
Pretzel.
Pretzel nothing. Pretzels.
No, I'd spell it U-R-R-I.
Yuri.
Yuri.
Uri.
No, Yuri.
U-R-R-R-E-Y.
You are dumb.
You're dumb. Jupiter, Saturn, you're dumb. Neptune, Pluto.
Jupiter.
So,
Negotiations.
oops.
It's a tough one. I think it depends on whether or not the writers care that much about what they're writing.
If they're passionate enough to chase their dreams. Maybe that's a little much.
Statement makes me sick. Passionate enough to chase their dreams. It's really difficult because everyone wants money. But I think there are some people who want nothing but to make something amazing. But that's very few people, because most people strike a balance between wanting money and wanting to create something good. And I think occasionally what people want to create lines up with exactly what the public wants, in which case they're making something great and they're making a lot of money. And I think these days with cartoons, they're putting too much emphasis on the money side of it.
Rather than the artful side of it.
Yeah.
So, is that helpful? No, it wasn't. Goodbye.
Ta da da It's still hot in here. I try to follow the tempo of your breathing, okay? But it's really difficult when you change, like, every second.
Like every second. That was every second. Heck snap.